everybody, welcome back. Thank you for being here. I'm Yumble, and today we're going to stack some roads. So we're going to be building a highway interchange called the Stack, or a 4-level stack, some people call it. It's a free-flowing interchange. It allows traffic to pass each other and merge with itself from one highway to another without having any conflict. So it's completely free-flowing. There's no traffic lights, there's no intersections, nothing like that. Only merges and splits. And it's very expensive in real life, but in-game it's pretty reasonable. You can make it fairly small. It'll still take up a lot of space in your city, and I wouldn't recommend using it as a highway exit, but it is the best way to connect one highway to another highway, and I think I've developed a pretty good formula for how to do one when the roads are perpendicular to one another. Let's see how it works. I'm doing them perfectly perpendicular, not because it's realistic, but because it's easy, and the numbers will all add up and it'll be nice and even by the end. I'm also going to be using a lot of 2-lane highway for this, so due to the way lane math works, we're going to end up reducing the 3-lane highway probably down to 2-lane highway by the end. Now, the way that I'm selecting the point where it crosses is I'm just using road guidelines and just going 90 degrees off of where that begins. And standard spacing on highways is 4 units, so I'm going to maintain that. I'm going to keep it at 4 units for now. We'll see if anything changes. But the goal here is to see where it crosses so that we can figure out where our overpasses are going to go and where our ramps are going to go. I'm actually going to connect these preemptively because I know that they're going to be connected eventually. And a lot of this you could probably do without mods, though you're going to see me using Move It a little bit. You're going to see me using Precision Engineering. That's the mod that allows you to see the numbers. You see the 7, 8, 9. That's Precision Engineering. Or if you want to see angles, you can use Precision Engineering by holding Shift to see what angle road your building is at. We're not going to need that feature so much, but that's where that comes from. Maybe a little bit of Fine Road Anarchy or Fine Road Tools, but I'm going to try to limit that as much as possible. Now, the next move that I'd like to know, we're going to redo the heights of these. These are not going to be at-grade crossings. We're going to sink the main highway down and raise the secondary highway above that, I think is the way I'd like to do it. But I've got to figure out where our overpasses are going to go. Here's a handy trick to get some good road guidelines for your ramp, for your flyovers. I know that I'm going to want the exit ramp for the left turn to be either 1 or 2 units away from the road right here. So I'm going to make a marking right there. That's actually probably 1 unit spacing. I'm going to make a crossing there essentially just to get these nodes here. And if you do that on every single side, what happens is you get these cool guidelines right where you need them. And these are not permanent. So I'm going to delete these, get them out of here. But what we've done is created nodes on every single side, so now I can use them to measure where the ramp is going to go, and if I do it correctly, I'll only have to use Freeform Road Tool to discover where the curve is, so there's no guesswork whatsoever. This is going to be a very standardized approach to the whole thing. One thing that's really going to help a lot with this is having the max segment length mod by Cuboid. So what this does, the default is 96 meters, which means that's why you get, you know how the perfect slope is 12 meters long, if you've noticed, or sorry, 12 units long? It's because of the max segment length in the game is set to 96. I'm going to crank this up to, I know that 132 works. I'm not really into doing too much math, but I know it'll work for my purposes, because what I want is for it to not produce as many segments when I draw this road. So what I've discovered is that the way I want to draw this is a 17 by 17 curve starting from 11 units back from this marker is the best way I can describe it. So 11 units back, right? I've got this 10 meters high just so it stays grade separated so I can see what that looks like. And if I make it a 17 by 17 unit curve, the beauty of this whole thing 17 is that it will, oh, I lied. If I increase the max segment length by a little bit, it'll probably play ball. So look what's happened. The pillar has landed in between all of these roads, somewhat realistically, right? There would probably be barriers on the edges of these 2-lane highways. I reduced these to 2 lanes, by the way. Sorry I didn't give you the memo, but what's done is done. So the beauty of this, of measuring to this point and using a max segment length of 140, it could probably, there's a range of numbers that would work for this, but it makes the segments a little bit longer because I don't want any pillars in the road. That one would almost work, but this is perfect because dead center of the interchange is where I'm going to have a flurry of pillars, if you know what I mean. So there's a pillar on the end, a pillar in the middle, a pillar on the side. If I were to do the same thing again from scratch, here's how I do it. Let me show you. I'm going 11 units away from that. I'm making a node there just as a placeholder, and that's just a stylistic choice on my part. You don't have to do that. I choose to do that. It's a good little checkpoint or bookmark. And the reason I'm doing it where I'm doing it also is because if you do it anywhere else, check this out. Do I even need anarchy for this? No anarchy required for this part. If you get your measurements right, I don't think that you'll need too many mods to pull this off. This is mainly a game of measurements. But what we've got here... Oh, just kidding. The upper roads are going to need anarchy to fit the pillars here, which is fine. But what we end up with is this central little square is going to have a bunch of pillars for all these overpassing roads. I happen to do these at plus 10 meters, just for visual reasons. I'm going to do the next set of roads on the same markings at plus 20, just so we can see this. And I'm going to use this set of markings, basically. This set of, what would you call them? Guidelines, right? So another grade-separated set of left-hand turns for this piece. Check it out. So the result is all of the pillars for the center of the, like the apex of the turns, I guess I would call it, this central point of this 90-degree angled turn, all of the pillars wind up in the middle, which I think is super clean. And in a lot of other tutorials and builds and things, I tend to move it and move the pillars, and you can do that. Like, that's fine. You can move them wherever you want. I can put it over here. I can put it over there. I like this because I think it's elegant, and you don't need to use move it to adjust the pillars. The pillars end up exactly where they're supposed to be. The roads end up spaced perfectly, in my opinion. Any closer and the roads would be on top of each other, right? If you reduce the number, if you move this a unit up towards the intersection, these roads collide with one another. So that's why the measurements are the way they are. So let's talk about road heights. I see a lot of arguing about this online in City Skylines. Let me set the record straight for the way that I do it. I like a 10-meter distance between roads, at least for highways. For highways, 10 meters is beautiful. A lot of people like to say 10 meters is too much because they're using their very rational brain and thinking, 10 meters is too high. That's crazy. Why would you need 10 meters of clearance? The reason you need 10 meters of clearance is because Cities Skylines is not measuring from the underpass to the bottom of the road above it, like a reasonable human would. Cities Skylines is absolutely measuring from the bottom road, which is at 0 meters, to the surface of the upper road, which is at 10 meters, not accounting for this like 4-meter thick highway ramp, construction here. So keep that in mind. The reason I'm using 10 meters isn't because I'm a psychopath who wants to have a 10-meter gap. It's because the trucks are like, what's that, like 4 meters high maybe 3 meters high. They need a little bit of clearance, and I don't think that it needs to be too tight, and 10 meters happens to be what I like for highways. So what I'd like to do, now that we know what the spacing is, let me show you how I do this. We're going to do 15 meters at the highest. So these are going to be our templates. So that's 15 meters. The next level down is going to be 10 meters less. So 5 meters will be the next height of the road. And then negative 5 meters is 10 meters less than that, right? So that's pretty cool. And then negative 15 will do it. And this is good because we're using the... Oh, geez. We're using the flat ground as our point of reference for this. I'm going to keep this one grounded. Wow. So we're using the flat ground, the grade that the road is starting at, as our starting point. I've got my... This is in the Steam Workshop if you guys want it. This is it's called the Crispy Stack. I was referencing it. I made it, but I was referencing it for my numbers. That's funny. So we're using 0 as a reference point, and we're branching out from there. So we're going up by 5, down by 5, up by 15, down by 15 meters to get our heights. And the way that you can do this is all subject to change, but the highest one, maybe I'll even take the highest set of roads using Move It. I'll select all those nodes, and we're going to go to Object Height to the highest one, which is lower than what I had it set at. That's the beauty. We're trying to keep this as close to 0 as possible. We're trying to keep all these roads. None of them should be too high, nor should they be too low. They should be in the Goldilocks zone, aka just right. So that's good. And that's lower, but you can see we've maintained that spatial difference. I think that the main road, let's consider this one, this pre-existing highway, to be the main road, and let's put this, I'm going to select whatever nodes I have to put this all the way down to the lowest. Oh, this is not the main road. Well, whatever. So we're going to take this crossing road that we have, and we're going to go... Let's go all the way down with that one. I don't think it really matters necessarily. It's all the same either way. Only the names have changed. And then we're going to take our main road and we'll put that to medium low, which is -5 meters. And of course you can use Move It or you can eyeball it or whatever. I just like knowing, you know. I just like knowing that all my heights are correct and that they all make sense. So let's use Find Road tools to elevate this one road so it doesn't look so funky. Get that elevated over there. Looks good to me. I've decided that a nice 18-unit slope looks nice and cozy, and I'm using a max segment length of 140, which hasn't changed. That's how I got the pillars in the center. So leaving it at 140 gives us one pillar in the middle of this. All right, so we've got all of our ramps all set up. I'm going to go around and do some sloping. Essentially, I'm going to repeat this process over and over, where I start at the end point. Actually, you know what? I'm going to save the sloping for the end. Let's figure out where our right turns are going to go. How big do we want these turns to be? That kind of thing. And these will certainly be on the ground. The deal with the stack is you want to keep it as grounded as possible for cost reasons. I think that is going to look awesome. Yes. Very good, very good. A nice big sweeping corner so that cars don't have to slow down, that kind of thing. This is super exaggerated. If you really wanted to do this, you could always start the curve here. A 7x7 is actually fine. I don't think City Skylines vehicles will slow down at all, but that does not look nearly as cool. I'm going to be perfectly honest. This thing is a huge, it's kind of a feat of engineering. In the US, there's a lot of highways that cross using stacks like this, or even more elaborate schemes, because oftentimes there will be more highways involved, more crossings, or even a system interchange with the elements of a service interchange where cars exit near the system interchange, things like that. But all I'm doing here is I'm using this 18 units away is where we grounded this. I'm going 2 units away from that, and using the freeform road tool, which will automatically determine our curves. You'll notice I've not used the curved road tool at all this entire build. You really don't need to like measure anything. You just need to, all the angles will work out as long as you use a freeform road tool. And that's the general shape. That's all of our lefts. That's all of our rights. I think this is how I'd like our splits and merges to look. All you have to do really is remember 5 units for the whole thing. I'll show you how I got this little split and exit here. So if you go 5 units down, ready? 5 units to there, and then use freeform road tool to connect the right turn to that. And then do another 5 units and make a marker. Well, there happens to already be one there, but distance too short. I'm going to use Anarchy to get a node there. And best friend, freeform road tool, once again, to hit that marker that we did. So remember, I was using 5 units to get to here, and then another 5 units to get to here, and there it is. So that's what each exit is going to look like. I'm going to go around to all sides and get that done, and then I'll show you what sloping this thing looks like. Now for the slopes, and there are a lot of them. So what I want to do is start at the highest point And I'll let that kind of be the highest point of the whole thing. And let's see how this looks. And you go to move it, slope objects. Great. So all I'm going to be doing for the next, for the next little while is making sure that the grades look okay by doing that. And that looks great. So once again, select your nodes, all the nodes in between. As long as you have at least 3 nodes, you can slope objects using move it, or it'll work on any object. I just happen to be using nodes right now because these are networks. And that looks pretty great. I'm just going to be going around to every single side and completing the slopes for the overpasses. Also, we're going to need to figure out the slope for this here. I've already got a good node at the bottom there. So let's just go all the way up to here and see what that looks like. And see what that looks like. And see what that... Oh, I missed one. Here we go. Okay, another pro tip. You can actually do both sides of roads. As long as the objects are next to each other on a plane. Put it this way, it won't work in every situation, but in this situation it totally works, where you can just slope the objects. Cool. And I can do that to this side too. I'm not sure that these nodes will stay. It looks a little bit awkward, but just to show you the process, it looks a little something like this. And it just cleans the whole thing up a little bit and avoids this roller coastery look. Let me go around and figure out this whole thing and maybe do a little bit better of a job on this overpass, because I feel like we're not using enough overpass. Or it might be fine. I'll be back in just a second. One more move that I might recommend. Let's see if this does what I expect. We're going to soften the terrain, which will make these will make the transitions in height on the ground a little less severe. So what that does is it should make this overpass look pretty cool. Oh yeah. Look at that. So now it's not really that evident that this road is sloping down, or it's not as dramatic. It's dramatic when your cars are floating, but other than that, once they're back on the ground again, it makes the overpass look a little bit nicer if you just use the smooth tool. And we've still kept the elevations the same. Negative 15, negative 5 meters, positive 5 meters, positive 15 meters. But that sloping the land properly, or using the soften terrain tool, just makes a world of difference for this type of thing, as we're keeping so many roads on the ground. Let me finish sloping this, and we'll dress it up a little bit. Actually, you know what? I'm going to show you what I do with Node Controller as well. I'm using Node Controller right now, right? The latest version. I'm going to click on a node, and I'm going to shift-click with the node that I want to align to, and that'll move this entire road over so that the lines match up in the way that I want. And it'll take a little intuition to understand why I'm doing it this way, but I think it makes perfect sense. Like, without a doubt, perfect sense. Align that. And then if I've done my job right, this should already be aligned. It is. Good. Cool. So I already went down this entire road and aligned the whole thing, but that is how you end up merging. That's how you end up aligning the nodes in such a way that kind of makes sense in a real-world situation, you know? Like in City Skylines, it wants to center all of the nodes on each other, which isn't really how roads work. Really, the nodes they're aligned by lane in the real world. You know, they're aligned by lane, and then if there's an extra lane, it's all the way off to the side, and then it has to merge in. And that's it. So once again, intersection marking node controller, click the thing, make ends straight if you want to, right, to do that, and then shift click to create an alignment, and then you just have to go down and click every single node. If you want to do this, I'd recommend doing it for every single side and paying attention to what you're aligning to. But this makes the roads a little closer together and makes this split just a little bit smoother. And you can also upgrade all of these to 2 lanes if you want to. All these little merges here with intersection marking tool when the time comes, which is easy enough. You just hold you just click, and while you're clicking the second node with intersection marking tool, the second circle, hold shift for a solid line, or don't hold shift for a dotted line. Hold shift for solid, hold shift for solid, don't hold for dotted. So the whole reason that I'm doing all this extra stuff is so it just looks a million times better, in my opinion. And the way that you do the merge is very similar. You click and hold shift for the solid line, so do that on the exterior roads, and then click without holding shift to get your dotted lines going across, and that's what the merge looks like. If you want to do even better, hold Control and drag the dots to places that actually match the road, because sometimes they simply won't match the road. You can also change the line width and everything. I have an intersection marking tool tutorial that goes over all this, but here's the crash course. And that's a good merge. And then take that merge and expand it a little bit with Node Controller, and now you're really doing something. So when traffic finally comes in and has to merge, it looks realistic and really beautiful, honestly. I'm going to go around and make these changes to every single side, dress it up a little bit. This is going to take a really long time. Wish me luck. And here it is, the completed stack. Everything is sloped correctly. All of the nodes are wrangled using Node Controller. All of the intersections are marked using intersection marking tool. It's a bit of a feat, the whole thing, really. It's a feat of engineering. I didn't invent it. But it's also kind of a feat to pull it off in a nice way and have all the angles down and everything. And of course the angles will change if you do the roads at a non-90 degree angle. That's going to change everything. But I think this is a really good starting point. I opted to add some brick key walls, if you know what I mean. Some keys, some retaining walls to make the bottom road look a little bit nicer. Obviously there's some bushes, there's some trees. Don't bother asking if it's realistic to have a bunch of trees in the middle of an intersection. Not really. It isn't. But I think it looks pretty nice, and I'm really happy with the result. You can see all the traffic is free-flowing, everyone's splitting and merging, and at the very end of that 4-lane road, they merge down to 3. That's really the only point of conflict in the whole thing, is that it has to merge back down to 3 lanes. But I'm very happy with the result. You can find this in the Steam Workshop under Crispy Stack, under my name. Download it if you'd like. It's similar. It's not exactly the same, but very similar. Or build this yourself is really what I'd recommend doing. I think that's the most sustainable way to play the game. Start building stuff yourself and taking pride in the whole thing. Everybody, thanks for hanging out. I've been Yumble. I stream on Twitch 2 days a week. I've got Twitter. I've got Instagram. We have a great Discord full of critiques of cities and people posting pictures of their cities. It's really beautiful. Thank you for being here, everybody. I'll see you in the next stream or the next video.